All right. I think we're live.
Super.
Yeah, let's see if we get some people joining us in on LinkedIn. And I'm just gonna just toggle a little bit to make sure that we get all of these things started.
Yeah. Well, actually, we should start with something like Wurzbach.
Oh yes, we should. So that would be perfect. So I'm gonna let you say that part again because my German is definitely not that good. Definitely not that good. I think we're now getting into LinkedIn. It's taking a little while to get in on LinkedIn. It's already up on YouTube.
There it is. No,
YouTube
there's
is
YouTube.
YouTube is good. Waiting for there we go. We are on LinkedIn as well.
Super.
Perfect. So we have everybody just coming in. We are at OilDoc today in Bavaria.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice. I did not bring any of my Bavarian clothes, but it's all good. I will work with what I have. I'm sure you brought yours.
Yes, I have lederhosen for this evening at our special Bavarian
Dinner.
event,
Yes.
Bavarian dinner tonight. And I've actually been doing that for how many years? 2011, I think, was the first time. So I've made it to each of the of the OilDoc conferences, and it's always been really good. We've always gotten a lot of good contacts. I think that the technical content of this particular conference is among the best in the world, and of course their social activities are among the best in the world
Definitely.
as well. I may have some partiality because of my last name and having some German heritage, but definitely good. And we've already seen it this week so far.
Yes, it's been like a lot of good discussions, a lot of interesting things happening, a lot of people, just bringing all of their information to the table and a lot of sharing of information.
For sure.
A lot of things that are new to the industry. So, if you weren't here, you missed out big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to reserve your ticket for next year for sure.
Well, 2 years, right?
Next 2 years, every 2 years.
That's right.
So you have enough time to plan.
Yes.
You have enough time to plan and make sure that you get everything done and sorted because it's definitely the place to be this year. We've had so many good connections, so many good people meeting.
Right.
And I know Rich is actually going to do a little bit of a walk around to find more people.
Right.
And he's going to give us some more information on that.
But we can also talk a little bit about the sessions that we've already had so far. So Dylan and I kind of got here, cutting it a little close.
We love transport.
But we made it in time for me to do my presentation yesterday. And I was, of course, talking about grease analysis and the grease thief. But so I think what we want to do today, one of the really interesting presentations from yesterday was from our friends over at eCall.
Yes, eCall. Hello to the eCall people.
So we're going to visit Wojciech this morning and discuss. And you actually have a couple of his select slides to share, which was great. But for us, I mean, for Dylan and I, to coming from the standpoint of kind of helping to develop the technology, and then to get that feedback from a customer that's using it, who has some ideas, really good ideas of what we can do to improve it, and really that's where we need to be with a technology like this. Getting that feedback from those out in the field that are using it and what they see as opportunities. And sometimes it's just questions like, did you guys ever think of this? And sometimes it's a bit of an echo chamber. No, we didn't. we didn't think of that. So I'm excited about that. But I wanted to kind of do a little walk around and visit a few of the booths and talk about what we have here at this conference for sure.
And I think we've gone through a lot of these different booths over the past yesterday and some a little bit this morning, and we have some really good quality exhibitors here. So again, you missed out definitely if you weren't here.
But this is your chance to participate a little bit.
We're going to bring a little bit of Bavaria to you today. We're going to try our best, and Rich will bring his German in check and help us out with that. So I know he's gonna hit a couple booths and gonna give us some information on Bavaria and what we can and cannot see here.
Okay, well, let me transition to my mobile mode here. Let's see if this can work.
Yes. All right. Oh, yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you.
And there's you guys in the background, right? So this is our booth for this week. And of course, we brought some of our in the field type analysis equipment. And we've just been talking, especially about the excitement around the new device, which is the pickpocket device for sampling and how that produces that piece. So, but you've heard a lot about us before. So let's see what else is out there.
Yes,
I walk the floor.
You walk the floor. So I have Helen helping me here, and I want to make sure. Are you hearing him?
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, he's on mute. I think he's on mute. No, can you maybe run across and ask him to unmute himself? So I think Rich is on mute. Rich is on mute for a little bit, so we've missed some of what he said.
He's muted. Yeah. How about now?
He's
Any
good
better?
to go now.
Okay. Any feedback?
Perfect. No, we're good.
No feedback.
We're
Okay.
good. No
Looking
feedback.
good. So we always got to figure this
Looking
stuff out,
good.
right? So yeah,
Always,
sitting here at
always.
the OilDoc or OilCheck, the laboratory here in Germany,
Yes.
and like I was just saying that way back in 2011, that was my first visit here, and it was my first exposure to the wind industry. Because they had Hans Müller of Vattenfall listening to one of my presentations and saying, "What are you guys doing about grease in wind turbines?" And we didn't even know about it. So it was really here in this same building that we got our first exposure to wind turbines and some of the challenges there, lubrication challenges there, greases, oils. So that was exciting. And speaking of wind industry, we've got another booth over here, which is the Poseidon booth, right?
Oh yeah, the
So here with
Poseidon
Mark
guys.
Redding. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah, so we're broadcasting live. Sanya's wishing you hello. We're broadcasting our Grease Thief Goes Live, and this time we're coming from Bavaria. Yeah, and you've been here a few times, Mark.
Fourth. This is my fourth time.
Fourth visit, right? So that's fantastic. And so what have you found as a beneficial for your products and your company coming to this conference?
So in recent years, as there's been I would say a move, but online oil sensors complementing offline oil analysis. And as one of the leaders in online oil sensors, we find value coming here and meeting people that are interested in complementing their lab analysis with online sensors.
Do you find that the folks in Germany or Europe in general are more accepting of that? Is it kind of where it is in other parts of the world, or how does Germany stack up in terms of accepting the sensors and looking in that direction?
I would say Germans in general are interested in technology, so very open to it. In terms of adaptation, I would say greater adaptation in the U.S. To date, but it's increasing.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of that is because that's where we're from, right?
Yeah.
So those are our neighbors, and we can get a lot of opportunities. But it's great that you're here, reaching out into these other areas, other communities, because of the products that you have and what they can bring to folks. I want to talk a little bit about the Grease Thief connection here with Poseidon
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to? You're a better person to talk about that.
Well, I'm just excited that we were able to work with your organization to develop the FerriQ. And, for those who've been following it, you've seen us demonstrate the FerriQ quite a bit and its unique capabilities when it comes to grease analysis, particularly around the heterogeneity of the grease. And that's been a challenge. Other sensors that we tried, you could get very different readings depending on spatially where that first material happens to be in the grease. And knowing that it's not homogeneous, that has to be compensated for. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that you guys saw with that and how you came up with a solution for us?
Well, so part of the challenge was, so with this grease sample, you need to be able to measure the entire length of that sample. So our measuring coil, we designed it so to measure the entire sample, not just a plane
or a slice.
or a slice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's made a big difference, and we share that difference with the different instruments. Like at ASTM, we did some different studies. We deliberately tried to trick the machines by, skewing the particles from one end to the other, but the Poseidon Ferrocube, consistently gave us the right readings. So it's great that we have that, and it's exciting part of the partnership that we have with Poseidon, getting that technology out to people.
So it's fundamentally the same sensing technology that's used in our online debris monitor.
Oh, yeah.
Where we size and count individual particles. But here we're looking at total ferrous content in the sample, not
Individual particles. Well, that's great. Well, Mark, I'm going to
Do
go.
you have a grease thief
Oh, I've got just this in my
all right.
pocket right now.
Well, that would probably would read.
It's not going to read that, right? What I should have done is come with some kind of actual grease with some known content in it. But we know that it's got that ability. Whether it's and this is kind of cool too, because everybody knows that this works with the grease thief, but it's also going to work with the new pickpocket tubes as well, and we're excited about that. So, thanks, Mark. We're going to continue to walk the hall, and so we come all the way to Germany, and we find one of our close partners here that is exhibiting. And of course, they have that product with them. I was in Europe just 2 weeks ago, and I was able to visit the ELGI conference. My wife Missy and I came to Copenhagen, and we did meet up with Hans Muller and our colleague Kim Esbensen. Kim Esbensen is really a global leader when it comes to sampling technology, and he is a leader of the theory of sampling. So, because I was in Copenhagen, I got to meet up with both of those guys who were just instrumental in designing effective sampling solutions for greases. So you can see that ELGI is coming again in their next conference here is going to be in April of next year in Rome, and maybe we'll broadcast from there at some point. So making my way through the hall here, and just a lot of great things to see as you visit these vendors, and got to navigate through a narrow opening here. And I want to head over to our friends at Equal. It was great to have a presentation yesterday in the same session that I presented with Wojciech Yula, who is here now. And so I'm going to come here and hello, Wojciech. Good to see you.
Hello, Richard.
Yeah. So let's stand together here so the folks can see us as we broadcast. And so I guess Sanya, on my screen, I don't see the PowerPoint, but is that something you can bring up a split screen with us? Here we go. Excellent.
Okay, I can see my presentation here.
Yeah. Okay. So if we want to move forward, and it's just a couple of your slides that I selected because I wanted to focus on some areas. So if you could move forward, Sonia, to the next slide. And I'm sorry, I can't hear you, and I'm not sure why. I turned my volume up, but you just have to. Okay. Super. So you started us off with a picture of the grease thief analyzer.
Yeah.
I don't know that everyone realizes that, but that is the newest installation in Europe, the one that's in your facility. You tell us a little bit about when you got to see that and how you came to be working with the grease thief analyzer.
It's kind of like you said, it has possibility to measure cleanliness class, like in the oils, but here we have a particles larger than 25, 10, and 80 microns. It can also characterize the particles, depends on what are the particles, abrasive, adhesive, fibers, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So let's go to the next slide, because on the next slide we have some of the data that you were able to produce for us, which is, and you'll remember this, where you were comparing them. Can you talk a little bit about which of the tests you were running? Maybe not you said in your presentation you don't want to say whose greases they were, but just kind of the
Yes.
types of greases, how you selected them, and what you saw in that data.
I choose the fresh greases because I wanted to show correlation between comparison between an LGI consistency and a GTI index, and it is visible here that there are some similar. It's kind of similar, but not in every case, and the GTI index vary in the same energy consistency. For example, here on this chart is two energy consistency for a few sample, but the GTS load changes between, as I remember, between 1,500 to 2,500. So there is some similarities, but it's different and it expresses better how the grease can flow in the side.
Right, right. And we did see that there are some differences. You and I talked a little bit about that could have to do with the differences in thickener, right? Because as you look at the NLGI grade, you're really just looking at the cone penetration, which is a static test.
Yes, that's a static test. And yeah, we talk about what about the grease stiff type? It's a lithium, and I didn't unfortunately focus on that, but maybe it's a good thing, good point to focus in the future
Yeah.
to compare these values. Yeah.
See if there's any kind of patterns that where you can see that you have a bit of an offset if you go from, say, a certain type of calcium sulfonate thickener to a certain type of lithium thickener, a polyurea, what have you. That could be interesting follow-up. And we've talked
Yeah.
about that, right?
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Because you've done some great work, and it was exciting. I was explaining earlier, it's really exciting for us to see someone taking this technology and really asking new questions about it,
Yes.
and then sharing that information. So we're excited about that. Sanya, can you go to the next slide?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So on the
Just
next area that we focused on, that was the cleanliness, right?
Yes.
So I just chose the one slide here, which was the highly contaminated fresh greases, which is, I think, going to blow some people away, right? To see what's in their fresh grease, because it's not obvious, is it? When you first just get this, it's not like, oh, that's a filthy grease, and you know it before you even start testing it.
We actually don't know, but during the testing GTI index, we also perform because GTI index and particles counting cleanliness class of the grease is made. We are doing it at the same time, so we also had at the same time particles and particles characteristics.
Yeah.
And we saw that. There are also fresh greases which are contaminated. There are like for, let's say, I don't remember, but 30, we performed a testing on 30 samples, and few of them were really contaminated. And as you can see on the pictures here, taken by the grease stiff and made by us under the microscope, that the fresh grease, because it is important that there are fresh greases, are contaminated.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we maybe we should also analyze the fresh greases and check if the producer deliver us not contaminated,
Right.
clean grease.
Yeah, and when I think about this, when I think about ECOL, you guys are not just a laboratory, you're also out there providing lubrication services for folks. And so
Yes,
yeah.
as it's here, equal in lubrication we trust.
What a great slogan, right? When I had the chance to visit with you guys, we went. What is the name of the coal plant that the newest coal plant that you have there near Ribnik? I think we went west of Ribnik to visit that facility, but a few maybe
I don't remember. I wasn't
okay,
there.
wasn't you weren't there at the time, right? But we
Yes.
did get to visit that, and what I recall there is we were able to see that your folks outside of the lab are also storing lubricants,
Yes.
filling grease guns, going out to the field,
Yes,
lubricating equipment.
yes,
Yeah,
we're taking care of the lubricant management and
really like a
greasing devices and all this stuff connected with widely lubrication.
Yeah, so like a lubrication program service,
Yes.
really top to bottom. But in that, I think about that, and now you have control over that whole process. Because sometimes I walk into a facility, and you make a good point: is the grease clean when it's purchased? But then what happens when it's stored? Right? Is it getting dirty when it's stored? Is it being put into a dirty grease gun?
That's
You know,
maybe that's the next thing that we should focus on.
Sure. Like look from end to end, and I think you guys have a unique opportunity in that you have some controls and some insight into the entire process. Because I've tried to test this before, where I've sent kits out to folks, and I say, fill some with new grease, brand new greases, then take some out of some grease guns, and then maybe out of the machinery itself, and see where in that process the contamination is being introduced.
Yes, yes. We don't know what kind of particles they are. Maybe the particles can lead to increased wear processes because they are maybe too hard.
Yeah, that's the primary concern, right? When we see hard particulate like this, or we believe it to be hard particulate, that's the damage that we concern ourselves with. And you can't, and I've seen where you guys do a lot of oil filtration, flushes and things like that to get dirt out of oil. You don't have a lot of options when it comes to grease. Once the dirt's in there, it's going to be pretty hard to get it out, and it's going to end up in your machine, right?
Yes.
So this is something that I would be excited to work with ECOL in the future on some of your processes and seeing where the particulate gets introduced. And in addition to the data that you shared with us here, we previously did studies in Europe and Ireland. And so I've attended Reliability Ireland in the past, and I think 7 or 8 Irish companies participate in that. They found some of the same things, some dirty new greases, but also some very clean new greases as well.
Okay.
It just depends. And one of the observations I had is that it could have something to do with the process of the making of the grease, because there are open kettle processes, closed kettle processes. And if you just think about an open kettle mixing greases on some industrial shop floor, you can kind of imagine where some dirt might get into that grease, right?
Yes.
So it may just be the process, or it may be the raw materials, but I think it's an important thing. You've opened up some eyes, I think, with what you've seen here. This isn't just a North American issue, or something happening in Ireland. It's probably universal when it
Yes.
comes to cleanliness and new greases. So I think that's a real service that you've done in sharing that this week. Sanya, can you go to the next slide? And this is where we now talk about what kind of particles there are. So it's a bit of a busy slide. It's because you've given us a lot of data here. But can you tell us about the classification of types of particles that you're seeing?
Yes, this chart represents different samples which comes from different devices. It could be main bearing, blade bearing from wind turbines, some motor bearings, robot bearings.
Yeah.
And we have here a particle characteristics. So every column is different sample, and represent every color here represent different particles. So for the green one are the normal, the red one are abrasive, and orange one is fibers, and the gray one is unclassified particles.
Okay.
So yeah, mainly we get the normal particles. The normal particles are just the normal particles generated during the operation.
Sure.
And yeah, but what we can see here also is the dots points which represent particle concentration. So we can correlate particle characteristics with particle concentration.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I didn't realize when I first looked at this graph is this is a stacked bar graph. And the reason it's flat topped is because that's the percentage of the different types of particles.
Exactly.
But in terms of the total amount, that's what you have is the scatter plot or the dot plot, right? And so you've kind of organized these from left to right as the most heavily contaminated to the cleanest greases.
Exactly.
So this is really, I don't think a lot of people understand that that's an option that you can get using the Grease Thief and doing this analysis. It's something that folks over here can send their samples to your laboratory, find this out. Of course, we're doing it back in the States, but just how much insight does that give to someone who's trying to manage a lubrication program? I think it's really powerful.
Yes, yes. That's the only part one of the chart.
Right.
There were also a second part, where the particles are much lower.
Yeah.
But here we can see that there is a lot of samples that were really contaminated, and
Sure.
we can also see how much is the particles, and also see what kind of particles inside
Yeah.
of the device. Yes.
So yeah, and we don't want to tell the world that everything is filthy, right? Like I just took the most exciting graph that had the highest levels, but of course, as you point out, there's a lot of clean greases out there too. I presented data like this one time, and someone in the audience raised their hand and says, "Well, since you've done all this testing, who makes the cleanest grease?" And we can't say that. But what I did respond to him in that particular study was, well, it probably wouldn't help you if I told you that, because the company that makes the dirtiest grease in my study also made the cleanest grease in my study. So it's not necessarily, just about who's manufacturing it. It has a lot to do with the process and the cleanliness of the raw materials. So I think this was really great work. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think what was also exciting for us is like what we're going to do next. And you and I had a chance to talk this over, and Dylan was a part of those discussions as well. As we look at some of that classification, the percentage classification of the particles, we really got into things like Python programming and
Yes.
how that's being done. So we're resolved to share some information going forward to improve that. Right, really over time improve the the criteria that we're developing for classifying these particles.
Yes, exactly. We are going to work and maybe specify some new particles. What the new, I mean,
Classifications.
the classification, because here we have normal, fibers, and classified, abrasive, but we also want to have here adhesive particles.
Sure.
So, yeah, we are going to cooperate. We are going to try to develop this process,
And I think,
particle characteristic.
yeah, and I think you did something neat, which was to take the grease thief extruded substrate and put that right under the microscope and kind of compare what you're seeing there to what the automated video counting
Yes.
is doing. I also would like to do some of that, but actually take the ferrography slides, so where we're really isolating the particles, and we can do a lot with changing the light and the backlighting and so forth. We have a new Keyence microscope that we're using with some really high resolution, some really neat lighting options. I think Dylan might be able to type it in, but I think we have like 7 different lighting options in terms of backlit, direct through the optics, or a side lighting, and all these things. They kind of give you a different picture of what you're looking at. It's been exciting for us to utilize that. But yeah, this is going to be great to work together on this stuff. It was great to meet you here. Let's
It was
continue
great
to
to
work
meet you
together.
also,
Yeah. Okay. Well, have a good rest of the conference. Now, one thing that I've already done earlier, I have a little bit of German background, so I started throwing out some German words. Can you give us a few Polish words that kind of relate to what you're feeling here at the conference? So I'll give you one German word. Is that I think what we have here at this conference is without peer, or just absolutely excellent. And so I would say Ausgezeichnet, right?
Okay,
So,
I don't know German, but
don't know German?
I can speak in Polish.
okay. So how would you, like, if I wanted to describe the level of technical exchange here, what's a good Polish word for that?
Dużo wiedzy, which mean a lot of knowledge.
A lot of knowledge. Say that again.
Very nice.
Dużo wiedzy, bardzo dużo wiedzy, a lot of knowledge.
Oh, a lot of knowledge. Dużo wiedzy. That's terrible. I'll stick to German, you stick to Polish. Okay? Thank you very much. All right, we'll continue along. So yeah, wow. Fantastic. What do you think
That's
about
very
that?
interesting. Very cool. I love the fact that we have young people getting involved in grease analysis, because that's what's about. That's the new generation. I love the fact that OJEC actually went to another level in terms of going into the grease analysis and taking it further and really absorbing the information and trying to pivot it, and I would say try to break it at one point. How far can we go with this information? So I love what he's doing. love the initiative that he's taken, because it's about that. It's about taking the next step and trying to figure out how do we evolve from here. So great job to Wojek, both Wojeks. At
Yes.
Eagle, at Eagle, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for that and making sure that we could get that done, because
Yeah.
that's what we have to do.
Yeah. So we, on our way down there earlier, we swung by the ELGI booth,
Yes.
and I see it. Terry Dickin is back here now. Just
Ah,
going to say
nice.
hello to Terry. Terry, I had a chance just 2 weeks ago to meet up with you guys
Yeah.
in Copenhagen. Tell us a little bit about that conference, what you saw there, and what you have planned going forward for the next year's in Rome.
Well, Copenhagen was a great conference. We had a record number of people, 412 delegates, a couple of good site visits afterwards.
Oh yeah.
You went on one of them.
Yep.
A very good program of papers, I think 14 or 15, on the subject of AI, and we actually had about 22 papers submitted at the call of papers.
Yeah.
So we couldn't accommodate them all, but we have used all the papers at various other events.
Right.
And going forward, we're going to be in Rome, at the Marriott Park Resort Hotel. Very nice hotel. We'll be there next year, 11th to the 14th of April. So save the date. We expect more people to come to this event.
Yeah.
But, if we could get 500, that would be great.
Wow, that would be great. When I saw the topic for the call for papers with the AI, I kind of wondered what would come out. How were you? What did you feel about the topics that were covered with that call?
Well, I was amazed we got so many topics on that, papers on that topic. Two of them were a little bit tenuous, how they got the AI in there.
Okay.
But it's a theme. It doesn't have to be on
Sure.
AI. It can be something around that. But everyone tried to accommodate the AI theme.
Sure. And I think just getting people to think a little bit differently and thinking where the current maybe energy is and the direction. I was impressed with that. And of course, we did a little something on grease analysis and how we're using some machine learning type things there. But I also thought it was that I wouldn't have thought of this. It was in the formulation. Some folks were talking about grease formulation and using it in that context. Like if I would change because it's such a complex kind of product, right? If I change these additives, or if I need this much of a certain additive, if I have this kind of thickener and so on.
That's right. I mean, Denmark is also famous for Lego.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. So people incorporated the building blocks
Yes.
of grease in the formulation or in the equipment. So that was quite novel. And I think also there's a lot of regulations in Europe at the moment against some of the components which go into greases.
Right. So you gotta.
It's a good topic to talk about.
Because they have to adapt, right? They have to adapt to those changes and so forth. So yeah, and even if in areas of the world where that's not current, it's probably coming too.
It drives that development.
Sure does.
Because, people are using calcium or polyurea greases instead of lithium, and that's causing the because of regulations on lithium, that's driving some of the development work in other parts of the world.
Yeah, what was the key word that they were using in terms they wanted to? Because I did get a chance to sit in. I don't know that people understand that there's working groups at ELGI that are just really doing some great work. But one of them was in kind of the environmentally friendly area, and it was what was the terminology? There's a recent product that they have to get out of the greases, and some of the exhibitors were talking about that. PFAS is
one. Lithium can be it could be classified as a reprotoxin.
Reproductive toxin, yeah.
So that there's been no formal decision on that, but a lot of the research work and the medical toxicology is pointing in that direction. So those are two big issues in the grease industry.
Yes.
And of course, sustainability is the other big issue.
Right.
And people are looking at the sustainability.
and that's difficult with a grease.
Mm-hmm.
With a liquid lubricant, it's a cyclic.
Right. You can have a tank and cover it, and recover it. Yep.
With a grease, you can make it in so many different ways, different chemicals.
Sure.
And also, we're looking at the aspects because down the line or upstream on that, some of the minerals for the grease could be used in slave labor.
Yes.
And also child labor,
Right.
or both. So we're looking at that aspect because that has to be built into the sustainability profile.
Sure.
As well.
Sure. There's even kind of ratings for that and so forth, right? Yeah.
So UEIL are looking at like liquid lubricants, but we're looking at the grease manufacture, which can be done in so many different ways and has a totally different carbon footprint.
Yeah. So the way we look at that with the grease thief is there ways to test to reduce the demand and still get the same kind of output, machine life, and so forth. And that's what we tend to talk about. Terry, thank you very much.
No problem.
Good to see you again. I don't think I'll see you in another 2 weeks.
Well,
But
I'll be there in Fort Lauderdale.
in Fort Lauderdale. Okay. Oh, for NLGI. NLGI is the next one. So good to see you again.
You too.
All right.
Yeah.
So
All
we've
right.
covered a lot of ground here today.
You did, and you got your full workouts. Well done. You're getting all your steps in.
That's right. Is that what it just said?
Definitely.
Okay.
So we're gonna probably try to mute you on one of these.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we're good.
Yep.
We are good. And then we will. Oh yeah, you can jump back in here. You can jump back in. But
Yeah. So
is there anybody else that you wanted to talk to?
no, I think that covers it now.
All right.
Yeah. So we covered some good ground. Of course. Yeah, and that one I got rid of that, so I'm just here with you in person.
Okay, good. That always works.
Yep.
That I'm gonna Dylan has to help me out there on the side, but that's all good. But great content from the Equal team because he did a lot of research on that particular topic, and it's so nice to see young people doing that. Yeah, and just getting into the field, and he looks like he's very passionate about it. So we're wishing you all the best, and we know you have so many more conversations ahead of you in the future, especially with Rich, for sure. We saw some good things from Poseidon,
Right.
the Poseidon boots, very strong advocates of the Ferro Q, and they've been doing so much work as well on that. And ELGI brought up some very interesting things. I didn't know that that entire part about child labor and definitely thank you for opening my eyes to that because it's something that we don't think about and we don't know where some of our materials and some of our resources are coming from. So definitely something to think about as we get a little more aware of things that are going on in the field. And that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, and with what Terry was talking about,
Yeah.
and we think about it from the grease sampling and analysis
Mm-hmm.
standpoint. And I've said this before, when we are kind of using grease analysis strategically
Yeah.
to work to optimize grease consumption, we generally find that a whole lot more grease is being consumed than is necessary.
Yes.
And in fact, that excess grease sometimes leads to equipment issues, problems with reliability.
Yes.
And so if we can do one part, we can't ourselves stamp out, child labor and
No.
these other things that are really important as far as sustainability.
Mhm.
But if we can play a part through grease sampling and analysis that works us towards optimization, reduces the unnecessary use of grease or the excess use of grease, and just uses it where it is needed, that means more of that is being kept in the ground.
Mhm.
There's less to dispose of at the end of the process,
Yeah.
and your machines are going to run better. And it's really economical too, right? Because every
It
time
helps everybody.
you have to add grease, you're either got someone walking out to a machine or you
Right.
got an auto luber that you have to install here and there. So if we can reduce that, that's our piece to
Yeah.
sustainability, I believe.
Definitely. We did have a question from Hamza on YouTube.
Okay.
He asked a really good question. He asked about how do you ensure that fresh grease sample is taken from the drum is representative of the entire drum
Yeah.
of grease. That's a really good question, Hamza. Thank you for asking that.
It is. So my advice is pick up the drum and shake it really hard,
God.
which is obviously
Very
nonsense. And because but that answer underscores the difficulty that we have here. So one of the things that we like to do, and in fact, if you think about the origin of the name grease thief, this is the kind of question that goes to large vessels. Right. When you want to sample with a striation, you want to see what's at the top and the middle and the bottom. Like I didn't know this before, but I guess more and more people are going on whiskey tours. Okay. Yeah. And with that, they talk about the whiskey thief, which allows you to go in and grab a sample at a certain depth within that barrel. As opposed to just what's being poured off the top or what have you. But when we think about like a new drum, you're going to have to get down in there. And Dylan, we've done that before. We've actually built longer grease thieves. So it just depends on the size of the container that you want to sample. But that principle of the thief can be applied to that as well. Because we know that there's going to be heterogeneity involved, we may have to take multiple samples. Generally not mix them all together. It makes sense to individually analyze those samples and then to come up with an idea of how that's going to affect the properties of the grease going forward. So I think what he's asking is, number one, have contaminants gotten into the container? Okay, let's say after it's been poured, because that could be at one end, usually it'll be on the top end. Or is there separation that's different from one end to the other? Now, we even see that in small tubes, right? And the general idea here is as long as those separated components are being mixed back together as part of the grease delivery process, you're getting that ratio of thickener to base oil. So you're delivering the additives and the base oil that is needed. It's generally considered to be okay. But you get into larger containers, you could have a situation where you're selectively removing very different property greases. So I would say a thief type process, even if it needs to be a longer kind of special made device, is what can be used. And it's all going to be based off of this same principle here. But if you could imagine that there's just a longer rod going, the rest of it can stay the same, but just a long extension and then longer tubing that could do the same thing, which is to go into that space and then pour the sample forward. And so you have that. Of course, we've shown that ejection process on the pickpocket there. But just a long pickpocket, right? Pick the pocket of the grease from across the room kind of thing.
Not the whiskey, the grease. We're focusing on the grease today. Yeah. But that was a really good question though, Hamza. I appreciate you asking that, because I think it's something that a lot of people may ask as well, because how do you ensure that you have the right sample and that it is representative? So I'm glad you explained that for us. I don't think that we had any other questions come in so far.
Did anyone question my title and my name today? I mean, I've turned off my phone.
I don't know if they saw it, if it came up. I'm not sure if they saw it.
Well, it said,
but you can say it.
Yeah, it said Herr Wurzbach, der Schmierfettdieb.
I can't spell that.
Well, it's just Mr. Wurzbach, the grease thief.
Okay, that works too. Yeah. That definitely works too.
Yeah, grease in German is Schmierfett, and a thief is a dieb. So Schmierfettdieb. Okay. Of course, in German, they would just put all those little words together into one big word. So Schmierfettdieb.
Making it more difficult for me to spell or read.
But there is one other German word that I want to share. You heard it earlier. And it's my assessment of this conference. I've been coming since the beginning, and I've told people that, this is probably the best return on investment that I see, over the years in terms of the relationships that we're able to build, the knowledge that we're able to share, the quality of knowledge that we're learning while we're here, and the contacts we need to kind of expand the world of grease analysis. And so to that, I say Ausgezeichnet.
I echo what he just said, because I can't pronounce that. So he's going to be my translator for today.
That's right. Well, very good. So another successful Grease Thief goes live, this time from Bavaria.
Under one roof.
And where do we do
and
next?
We have Dylan joining us. You could just scoot over for a little bit. He's been helping us out for quite a lot of things on this side. Next, I think you are at Reliable Plant.
Reliable Plant.
You're
So
back in the US, back in the
we
States.
do enough of these conferences, we can just bounce around and continue to do that. We've talked a little bit about some of our friends that we expect to be at that conference that we might pull in.
Yes, I think Greg Christenden
Yep.
from CMMS is
That'd be
going to be
great.
there.
Yep.
That would be a great thing to do. Who else do we have joining at that conference?
How about Brian Bishka from Upkeep?
Oh, Brian is going to be there.
He might. He's been to it before, so that's someone
Brian,
to look out for.
I may need a hat. Just, pass it to Rich or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But I know a lot of people are going to that one, and I think STLE as well is this week.
It's next week.
It's next week.
Yeah.
So, shout out to all of our friends going to STLE as well.
Yep.
I know that one. Including Dylan.
I was gonna say I'll be there.
Dylan's gonna be there.
And several others.
Yeah. So Dylan and two other MRG employees will be there. Julie and Jonathan, is that right?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
And Julie is doing a poster presentation.
Yep.
So if you're going to STLE,
Check out Julie.
What's that?
Check her out.
Yeah, check out Julie's poster, Jonathan's presentation, and Dylan, you have what, 4
I have
presentations?
4 presentations.
So you need to mark your calendar and get Dylan while you can,
Yeah.
and catch him in all of those presentations that he's going to be making at STLE. He's going to be representing the Grease Thief, and he's going to be doing really well.
Excellent. So we will see you next month at
Yes.
Reliable Plant.
At Reliable Plant, we're signing off from Bavaria.
Auf Wiedersehen.
What he said. Bye.